Hey everybody, I am Andrea with The Cutest Little Thing, Upcycle with Andrea. I appreciate you hopping on to watch this video. Today I'm getting some things ready for my booth and I'm doing some faux baking. So I thought I would bring you all along with me. What I'm doing, I'm making like little pantry tarts, little mini bundt cakes. Like I recently thrifted this cute little bundt pan / jello mold. So I'm going to be using this for some of them. I have lots of little like cookie molds I can press that dough into and make different shapes like that. I also have like this mini cake pan. I can do little mini cakes. And this is another bundt pan I picked up at a thrift store. I think it was like $6, but I figured I could make lots and lots of faux cakes out of it. So, and it's just got a really pretty design on it. It's going to make really cute faux cakes. And then I also just have my regular muffin tin I can use just to make regular cinnamon muffins with it, because I'm going to like grease this where I can just pop them out. And what I'm doing, I'm making little vignettes. I'm going to grab one and show you. I'm making these little vignettes to just sell as a whole in my booth and to other craft stores that I sell to. This one is just one I started. It is just a really cute basket. I've already added, this is like some little pumpkin butter that I did in the primitive style jar. And then this is the little, and this is the larger feed sack. And if you'll go back, I have videos of doing all of these. You can find them in my library. And then this is just a little carton of eggs that I picked up. Just sticking that in there because it goes so well with the Farm Fresh organic egg sack here. And then I just stuck a little pumpkin in there to go along with the pumpkin butter. And then once I get these pantry tarts and things done, I'm going to stick a couple of those in there. So once I get done with this video, you'll see the finished product of how you can stage these little cute primitive items up for decor in your home and also sell if you do that sort of thing. So without further ado, we are going to go ahead and get started on making our little faux pantry cakes. Alright, we're going to start out with, I just have some all-purpose flour here. We are going to start out with 2 cups of flour. And my measure is a ½ cup, so don't be alarmed that I don't know how to measure. Like, she's using way too much flour there. Okay, and you know, depending on what how many you're going to make, how big yours is that you're making, depends on, you can double the recipe, triple, you can half it, however, you need to do it. Okay, we need 4 tablespoons of used coffee grounds. So I have my filter basket from this morning with my coffee grounds, my used coffee grounds. So we're just going to do 4 scoops of that. And this is a tablespoon measure. And I'm not too exact, with my measuring, because what the coffee's doing is, I'm going to add a little extra. What the coffee's doing is giving it its color, giving the cakes these colors. So if you want your cakes darker, you just use more coffee. If you want them lighter, you use less. You can also, if you're not a coffee drinker and you don't have used coffee grounds, you can just use instant coffee. But I had used coffee grounds, so I'm going to go with that this morning. Our next ingredient is salt. We use a lot of salt. Now, what have I done with my measure? It was in my flour bag. Okay, so this is like a salt dough mixture. So we're going to need a whole cup of salt. and that's a lot of salt. So again, this is half a cup, so I'm going to be doing 2 of these. Okay, thank goodness I had another salt container in my pantry because I didn't quite have a cup, which would have probably been okay. All right, so that's a full cup of salt. I know my family thinks we use too much salt, but it's really me using it to make these faux baked goods. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of mix those dry ingredients just to kind of see what we're working with here. And again, you can always, you know, as you go, you can add more of anything that you think, you know, you need more of, especially the coffee. Okay, now it's time for our seasonings. I'm going to start with cinnamon. I always do mostly cinnamon. So I'm going to do 3 tablespoons of cinnamon. And again, it doesn't have to be exact. You can, you know, I always do a little extra than what it says. Okay, and I mostly do cinnamon. But I like this 5-spice seasoning that I pick up. Its main ingredient is cinnamon, and it also has the anise, the ginger, the nutmeg, and the cloves. So it's got all of those, you know, those good smelling fall, Christmas seasons in there. And I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of the allspice, or 5-spice. I don't know why I want to call it allspice. I feel like it used to be called allspice, and maybe I'm thinking of something else. Okay, so we're just going to give that a good mix with all of our seasons in there. Just mix up those dry ingredients first. I'm going to go ahead and preheat my oven to 170 degrees because that's what we're going to be baking these on. Okay, now, my oven would not let me, I forgot that it will not let me do any lower than 175. So I just turn it on 175. Okay, so now I've got my half cup measure again. This is some coffee grunge mix I already had mixed up. So I'm going to do half a cup of my coffee grunge and half a cup of water. And if you're not familiar with the coffee grunge mix, all that is instant coffee, your seasonings like cinnamon, 5-spice, nutmeg, ginger, things like that, and I do a splash of vanilla flavoring, and then water. And if you need to know that exact recipe, if I remember, I'll put it in the description, and if I don't, you can always comment and ask. I don't mind any questions whatsoever, and I try to answer any questions you guys have. And you can actually Google the coffee grunge recipe. I actually did that in the beginning. Well, I watched a fellow crafter. I love Tracy Campbell in My Sweet Home Living. So I had initially, you know, heard about it from her. And then sometime later, I was like, what was that coffee grunge, you know, again? And so I actually Googled it, and it came up. So you can do that as well. You can. I've been mixing and working for a while, and I think I'm just going to add a little splash of coffee grunge, and you can do that. You can add a little splash of water or coffee grunge, you know, as you mix, and sort of get it the consistency you want. But you don't want it to get sticky and tacky. And you definitely don't want it to get too moist, because then it'll just take longer you know, you'll have to bake it longer to get it to dry out. So you don't want that. And guys, these have to cook. It's all according to how big like your containers are and everything. But these have to cook like 6 to 8 hours. So they do cook a while. Now I've made little cookies and things like that using this salt dough mixture. And they don't have to cook as long. They only cook like between an hour to 2 hours. But you know, they're small. They're like little cookies. So being as, especially like if I were to fill, you know, this big Bundt pan, but I also show you a trick on how to, when you're doing the bigger cake pans and Bundt pans and things like that, I will show you a trick here in just a minute, where for one, you won't have to use so much of your dough mixture, and for another reason, it will lessen your bake time. And I'll also just take the back of my spoon and just mash that dough. And that also just helps everything mix up. Okay, I think this is getting to where we can start filling some of our pans. And like I said, guys, this is only one batch. So I can already see I'm going to have to make another batch to be able to do all the ones I want to today. Oh, but I was saying earlier, it takes a while to bake. So that's why I had some other projects and crafting I was going to get done today. So that's why I wanted to do these first, so they can be baking and drying out while I do my other stuff. So if you kind of do these first, they can be baking while you know, get some other stuff done. Okay, I'm going to start by just filling some of my muffin cups, because I definitely want to get these done today for my vignettes, my Farmhouse vignettes that I'm working on. And all I'm going to do is take some dough in my hand and just ball it up and mash it like you would need, you know, regular dough or biscuit dough or something like that. Then I'm just going to simply press it down into my muffin pan here. And I'm only going to fill it about halfway. I'm going to start with that. And then, actually, I'm going to fill it about 3/4 of the way. So I'm just getting me a little more dough, and I'm just going to press that right on top, press that in. So again, I'm feeling, and if you want them thinner than this, you can just fill it about halfway, you know, but I am going to do about 3/4 of the way full, and that's all there is to it. So I'm just going to fill up, I'm going to do all 6 and fill up the rest of these in this muffin pan. And this muffin pan or cupcake pan, whatever you want to call it, it has that non-stick film on it. So that's going to help, you know, these muffins. I'm going to call these little cinnamon muffins. But it's going to help these muffins not stick when they get finished baking. But if you're using a pan and it doesn't have the non-stick film on it, you can always spray a little Pam, you know, just like you do when you cook real food or real muffins, and you just lightly coat your pan with some of that spray, some of that oil spray. So that's all you have to do if your pan doesn't have the non-stick film on it. And there's our muffins, guys, ready to go in the oven. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in the oven where they can be cooking. Now I'm going to go with this cute Jello mold. So this is where I'm going to show you a trick if you're using a bigger pan or Jello mold. What you can do. So I'm just going to start by pressing that dough in there. I I did want to show you this part though. That last bit of dough, I am mostly focusing on putting it on the sides. I am sort of creating a hole in the center because we are going to use a filler. So like I was telling you earlier, we don't have to use so much of our dough, but also that's going to help with our drying time and our baking time, where, you know, this thing don't have to bake half the day to be done and cured. So I'm just sort of creating, I'm bringing that dough up on the side as far as I can. All right. So now I'm going to take some aluminum foil, and this is just your regular aluminum foil. I'm going to tear off a good piece, and I'm sorry, I know that's probably loud, but I'm going to sort of fold it, and I'll probably have to get some more, but I'm just sort of folding it into the shape of my little tart pan, or cake pan, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so see, I'm going to sort of lay this foil in that little insert we created with our dough. And then I'm going to do one more piece, just like that. So I'm just going to fold those edges in, just like that. Okay, so see, that is taking up some space. All right, and now I'm just going to do dough right on top of that. All right, I've got that dough, more dough mixed up, and I'm just going to do the same thing. Just putting it, spreading it right over that tin foil we put in. All right, guys, I think that is good for my liking. And again, I have noticed it will rise a little bit. So, you know, if you don't want to fill it all the way up, yeah, I have, most of the time, mine will rise a little bit. So, you know, if you don't want to fill it all the way to the top, that's fine. I'm sure it will rise some. Oh, and also when you check on this every hour and a half, I forgot to mention, you might want to kind of spray your pan. Like when you take it out, you might want to kind of spray your pan when you put it back in there. All depending on the pan you're using. All right, so this one is ready to go into the oven with the other one. With my leftover dough, I may just make some cookies. I can just roll them out with my rolling pin, and I've got some little cookie cutters here. I can just make some little cookies with the rest. And I will stage these up, all up for pictures when they are all finished. And I thank you guys for joining me today, this morning, making our pies and or cakes and tarts and cookies. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Also, guys, when your cakes or tarts or cookies or whatever come out of the oven, after they cool and you know they're good and done, once they dry, you can go with a paintbrush and paint on some of your coffee grunge mixture. And that will also give it a really pretty color. They're going to have a pretty color anyway when they come out the oven, but that will just really top it off and give it a really good color. Also, it's going to intensify that smell, those cinnamon and spices and things. And also, if you if you sell these, you can mention to your buyer after some time. It takes a long time, but after some time they may start trying to dry out some, and you can just brush them back over with some coffee grunge or just some coffee but not a whole lot because you don't want to wet them too much. But you can just kind of paint on that coffee grunge if they start to dry out over some time. But I have had some for a while, and they're still fine. But just keep that in mind. If you're keeping them for yourself, you may want to brush that coffee grunge over them from time to time just to keep them looking fresh and new. And also tell your buyers, if you're selling them, that they can do that same thing. But to simplify it, you can just do instant coffee with some seasons, some cinnamon, things like that. Okay, guys.